Hello, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America, featuring today's top directors sharing behind-the-scenes stories of their latest films and insights into the craft of directing. Please take a second to subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcasts. This episode takes us behind the scenes of director Edward Norton's new crime drama, Motherless Brooklyn. Based on the novel by JOnathan Lethem, the film follows Lionel Essrog, a private detective with Tourette syndrome who uncovers a web of corruption in 1950s New York while investigating the murder of his mentor. In addition to Motherless Brooklyn, Mr. Norton's other directorial credit includes the feature film Keeping the Faith. Following a recent screening of the film at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, Mr. Norton spoke with director Mike Bender about filming Motherless Brooklyn. Listen on for their spoiler-filled conversation.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you.
I got to say, I love this movie. It's the best compliment I could give you is I wish I made it. You know, it's one of those movies I just go, God, I wish I did that one. But, man, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work, you know. How many days did it take you to shoot that movie?
Well, I know what it should have taken, but but we had 46, which was not enough. Not enough. We got it done though. We shot it independently. You know, we made the film independently, so we were able to. You know, we worked in New York under an indie contract and stuff like that, but I had, you know, Dick Pope shot the film.
He did an amazing job. Just an amazing job. And who is your production designer?
Beth Mickle, absolute genius.
Unbelievable.
One of the rising greatest talents in the trade right now.
Man.
She's so amazing. Really, this Dick, Beth, a visual effects supervisor named Mark Russell, who did 683 effects shots for about a $2.5 million budget.
Like, just break down real quick, just in a nutshell, what were the visuals and something like that? Because aliens landed or anything.
There's just so much. Obviously, there's a lot of just takeaway if you want to shoot the 50s. We did pretty well with finding the places that architecturally were pretty clean, but you know, all the normal stuff with signage and skyline cleaning up and all of it, but the big ticket stuff like Moses's office,
with the bridge in the back.
Yeah, that's not actually there on Randall's Island.
Right.
The exterior is, but the interior is not. The Penn Station and
I love that set of the Penn Station set. How'd you do that? How'd you pull that off?
The best compliment I can give Mark is that a couple people have said, "Did you go to Budapest or something?"
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was just a airplane hangar on Long Island. It's just the lockers and the benches. That's all that's real. And the newsstands. But
great.
Yeah, he did a beautiful job. The Penn Station, the architectural plans of Penn Station are still available in the museum. So we were able to actually ingest the Penn Station architectural plans into an architectural software and work up from that.
Wow.
But it was, you know, and we had to make the film for, you know, kind of a 26 million net budget. That
wow.
film.
Did you really?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And so we really, I had people pushing on me very rightly, like, couldn't he figure out what's in the hat at a bus station? You know, it's like that's a big number that we could pull out of this whole thing without that. But I really felt like, you know, the film
feels like such a bigger movie than that number because, especially that
overall,
car chase at the beginning.
Yeah,
I mean that feels like more than $26 million worth of old cars.
We did most of that second unit. I learned, you know, it's funny. Someone said to me, like, if I read the book, the book Motherless Brooklyn takes place in the 90s, and it doesn't have anything to do with Robert Moses, or Paul, the book has Minna and the guys at the agency and the orphans and everything, but it's a contemporary novel. And we decided to set it in the 50s for a variety of reasons, having to do with the tone of the book feels like a Chandler novel. It's kind of a little bit of a meta literary surrealism in a certain way. If you played the book exactly like it is on film, it would feel like the Blues Brothers, I think. It would feel like guys in fedoras in the modern world, and it would be very ironic. Right. And we didn't want Lionel to be a running gag. And once I had this notion that it would be just better to set it in the 50s, and once we did that, we needed to open it up into a bigger canvas, the plot, and so we went for that. But the thing is that Penn Station is it's New York's lost Notre Dame. It's cathedral that it was this great. It was the gateway, the transcendent space that you entered and left the city, and it got lost to the backroom deals of people like this. It was a backroom deal, and it's so emblematic to me of what happens to our.
Why did you not shoot Grand Central? I mean, that would have been easy because it's there.
Yeah, it's different though.
Shot a lot. Is that what it was?
Yeah. It wasn't because it wasn't lost. That's the point. Like Penn Station is New York's ghost. It's there's so much in the film, I think, about people taking care of each other and the importance of having people looking out for each other, and what in the 50s what happened, that no one was looking out for the city. The city got orphaned, and Brooklyn got orphaned, and Penn Station, and there was just loss after loss after loss. The richness of the old city, communities, everything went under the steamroller to progress and infrastructure, and so much of it was capricious at best and actually racist by design at worst. And it just was to me, Penn Station was too. It was too evocative to not try for it.
No. So what I guess hasn't come out a lot, and I guess I just know because I know you're from an architect's family. Your father's an archect, right?
No.
My grandfather.
He wasn't an architect. He was an urban planner. Yeah, he was a very big philosopher and developer of cities, and he was kind of his voice comes through Willem's character a lot. There's a lot of things Willem says were things my grandfather said in speeches.
So this movie is like, this whole story is right in your strike zone, right?
Yeah, I worked. It was part of the reason I was interested in working in weaving the mid '50s and the damage that was done by people like Robert Moses, not just Robert Moses, but him and others. And I think I learned about a lot of. I worked for my grandfather in New York right when I got out of college. I worked in affordable housing, and was. That was my first exposure to the ways that New York had been so broken in a lot of ways, and it was fascinating. When you learn that history, you realize that that's the period. If LA's original sin is that it stole its water, if that's the really dark secret under LA, that it essentially is a city built on water stolen from other communities that destroyed other communities. LA's modern dark secret is what Moses did in the 50s. It's that for nearly half a century, the capital of the world, the great melting pot, the place that democracy was working, was really run by an autocratic, very racist individual who was totally antagonistic to the democratic process, and really was sort of a Darth Vader-like figure.
So it's so funny because it's like I guess just knowing you, and I didn't see any of the press that kind of link to your family, but also knowing you, also it had to have so much links to Trump, you know?
Well, I finished writing it in 2012, and I won't say that post 2016 I didn't underline a few things.
I think you probably...
But I did think that Moses, this kind of literary version of he's kind of a timeless, he's to me a more timeless kind of threat to America, which is the idea of power being where it's not supposed to be, or we can't see it. What happens when power is outside, has been amassed and is being deployed in the shadows, and that's where real damage gets done to us. And I think that the thing is, noir, when it's not gumshoe sort of dime store, cliche, I think when it's really good, it's a great American tradition. It's a very American impulse to say, hey, we have this narrative of what America is. We all buy into it. We take pride in it, and we trust it to a certain measure. But noir has always kind of peeled the corner back and said, well, hang on, there's stuff going on in the shadows. There's a shadow narrative in American life, not even necessarily political. The Big Sleep is pretty much like just the plutocratic rich are sick. You know what I mean? It's not really about politics. It's just about degraded ethics and I think the detectives in a lot of these films, what I love about them is they're not moralists. They're not actually crusaders. They're kind of guys out for a buck, but they start to get irritated by what they find. They find things and they get more and more and more irritated. And I think that's a very American sensibility in a way to go, hey, everybody's in the game, but if you're playing the game, if you're rigging the game to a degree that you're really screwing the rest of us, we're going to start to get annoyed. And that I think that's
yeah. There is a great kind of moment where Randolph asked Lionel, "What are you in it for? Are you for sale? Are you crusading?" And we're kind of going, we want to hear it, and
yeah.
It's really just leave her alone.
Well, one of the things JOnathan Lethem, who wrote the novel, he created this character. It's such a great character. But one of the things we talked about at different times was, what I love about the character in the book is that Jonathan pulls off the thing that we're all going for in films, in novels, in songs. It's like the hook, does the hook land in the first, 5 bars, or in the book, the first page, you're hooked. You're inside this guy's head. He's telling you his own story.
Well, I will say, as a director, in talking to you as a director, I thought that was a really bold choice for you to take this role and to be the director of that role, because that could go bad real fast.
I tend to agree.
I'm watching it, and I loved it, but I thought this could go really bad. You could be stuck with this the whole movie. And as a guy watching it, I could be stuck with it the whole movie, but more, you could be stuck with it. And you pulled it off great as a director. There was just the right amount of it, and even when you kind of varied it with the blowing the match Bogart bit, it was just great. You really pulled it off.
The anti-Bogart.
But that was a really brave choice, I have to say that was a really great choice.
Well, you gotta play to your strengths, and if your strengths are the opposite of strengths, I don't know. I don't think my strengths are Bogart-like strengths, or Nicholson-like strengths. I think Lionel's sort of in my sweet spot more than.
But that was walking onto the ice, taking that role.
Thank you. I think. Well, I started to talk about Dick. I think for me, I don't mind directing myself. You've done it 10 million times, and I think there are times when you understand a thing, and it's integrated, and it makes sense to do it all. I have very efficient conversations with myself as an actor. I listen to I trust myself. The actor in me trusts the director in me, and as a result, I actually get through stuff faster. I'll be more experimental with less protectiveness. Look, if on something like Birdman with Alejandro or something with if I work with Spike Lee, there's people I've worked with. I surrender myself so totally and happily to them. I don't that experience as an actor when you are, hey man, you want blue? Let me give you the full force of my talent on blue. Let me give you want to switch it to red? Let's try red. That's the happiest place to be, where you're not even, it's not even the back of your mind, how is this going to get used? Because the trust is that deep, right? That's the best. That's what we all want. And then as a director, that's what you absolutely want and need. From an actor, I remember Mike Nichols when I was really young. Mike Nichols was such a mentor to so many of us in New York. And Mike told me one time, he said that he had loved working with Jeremy Irons when they did theater back in the day, because he said he could tell Jeremy Irons to try anything, and that if it didn't work, he would get it made it easier for him to get off the idea, because he was like, Jeremy Irons doesn't hold back, and if it's not working, if Jeremy Irons can't make it work, it's a bad idea. You know what I mean? Right. But he talked about how much it helped him to know that there wasn't that he was just giving it to him. Yep. And it really registered with me. I was like, I want to be that way. Yeah, some people make it hard to be that way.
And that's why I think actors are good directors. Honestly, one of the best actors I ever worked with is Sam Raimi. And he was once an actor in one of my movies, and he gave me it was Indian Summer, and he would just give me another idea, pal. Okay, I'm just throwing it out. And he would just rapid fire it was like a Pez dispenser of ideas. And he didn't care if I used it or not. He just wanted it,
That's great.
And I think that some actors hold on to them, but once you've been a director, you just realize, I'm just throwing them out. Hey, man, I'm just trying to help.
I agree. It makes, as an actor, if you've directed a movie, you'd never be late. The first time I directed, poor Fincher, I was late a lot on Fight Club, and he let me know it. And then I directed a movie right after that, and I was never late again.
That's right.
Literally, I was never late again.
True. That brings me to a question, because I loved Keeping the Faith. And this was a long time since Keeping the Faith.
But actually, this gets back around to something.
Director. Why do you wait so long?
I didn't mean to. It just I wanted to get this one done, and I thought I was going to get it done sooner. I can't really say. This one was elusive. It was hard. And originally I developed it through the old New Line with Toby Emmerich, and Toby was the most phenomenal supporter of this project all the way through to when New Line went over into Warner, and it wasn't the type of movie he was supposed to make there, but he championed it. And it just took us a long time to figure out how to put the pieces together. But I can't say enough about, people talk about studios don't make these kinds of movies anymore, and generally that's often true. And I think, but Toby, I really can't give him enough credit. When he got the top job at Warner, he said to me, look, we're going to make a couple of these movies every year. I'm not going to have this job and not do that. I got to do them smart. He was like, I can't do sort of the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood model of $100 million and 120 to market. I just can't do it. He's like, but he goes, if we can figure out how to do this smart, I can give you, he goes, make it independent. We'll do it on a negative pickup, but we'll have commitment to distribute for the world, and then you can use that to help raise the money. He was super, super smart about saying, let's do this in a way that it keeps the risk profile down. But he said, I want to make these movies, and I really admire. It didn't make it easy necessarily, but it gave us a path. And when we got it done, I love that this movie's got the Warner label spinning up on it. It feels like that kind of a film, and I really appreciate how much he stretched to help me figure out how to get it done.
It blows my mind. It blows my mind that you say $26 million.
Yeah, we did it for 32 net, and then the New York tax gross and the New York tax credit.
And what about Bruce Willis and Alec Baldwin? Those guys make that in a movie.
Yeah, but the cast co-financed the movie. They deferred the whole everything. Everyone did scale
really?
pretty much. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Bruce, starting with Bruce and Alec and Willem, and everybody just. Bobby, everybody did me the solid and came in and did it for the love of it and really no money, which was amazing. And I think, but when you say 20 years, the funny thing is I think if I'd tried to, I had more money and time on keeping the faith. I had 62 days on keeping for a rabbi priest joke, I really did, and it was great. But the thing is, it's funny. After that, I worked with. It's funny you talk about people acting and directing and things like. For me, when I was like 18 or 19, and Do the Right Thing came out, that was the Citizen Kane of my youth. It really was like this kid. Writing, producing, directing, and acting in a movie about his block in New York. It's wildly entertaining, and it's like still probably one of the most. It's probably one of the biggest impact films ever made about race in America. It was like, and I remember when Phil Hoffman and I worked on the 25th Hour with Spike. We talked about seeing that film, and it rewrote your ambition. I mean, it literally changed the target of your aspiration.
By the way, the music in this movie kind of has threads to the music, and
I agree that because Public Enemy on the opening titles, but then jazz, and then this whole weave of music and New York and all of it, and I remember thinking like, wow, if you can, but then when I went to make a movie with Spike. He shot the 25th Hour in 26 days.
Did he really?
And I remember Phil and I were like, just because Phil was directing films too, and it was kind of like, how does he get this done? And you realize he was, for all of Spike's iconoclastic, kind of personality, he's the most meticulously prepared director, like 6 weeks of rehearsal, 9 to 5 every day, shot planning, everything. And he moves a set along in the city like I have never seen anybody in my whole career do. And then I did a couple films with Wes Anderson, and then we did Birdman. I did Birdman with Alejandro, and those series of experiences put me in a place where I was more ready to figure out how to do this in a major way. Like I'd been working with like Fincher and Milos Forman and people who had not. Fight Club was a 130-day schedule, And that was not the musculature I needed to get this done. But working with people who really, really had cracked the code on how you do a lot with a little had a big impact on figuring this out. And
let me ask you about working with Dick Pope, because I loved some of the shots you set up. They really they had that kind of Edward Hopper kind of. I just loved there were some. Did you guys like? What did you guys talk about? I mean, what did
we looked at a lot of Hopper. We looked at we looked at Hopper. We looked at a lot of Vivian Maier photographs. There's a few Easter eggs, homages to her stuff. But I'm glad you said that again, because Dick. When I did The Illusionist with Dick, he was nominated for that, and he's he's shot every Mike Leigh film, every single one.
He's amazing.
But all those Mike Leigh period films, Vera Drake and Topsy Turvy, and then Mr. Turner, which he was nominated for too. Those films, I would look at them and go, how can he be doing this on Mike's schedules? I know Mike's schedules are short. And then I did The Illusionist with him, and that was a short schedule. And I remember doing it and thinking, if this looks any good, he's a master, because we were moving along, and it was the best thing about the film, his photography on it.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of, I'm blanking right now, the name of the guy that did a lot of the early Barry Levinson diner films. I
can't remember either.
But Robert.
Bob Richardson? No.
No, but he shot all Barry's early
stuff. Yeah.
That series of 3 films that he did in Baltimore.
Yeah.
But as I was watching it, he had that kind of feel. But
I saw Dick around on when Mr. Turner came out. I saw him somewhere out there, and I said, "Do you shoot that on Super 35 or something?" And he said, "No, I shot on the Alexa, used these old Cook Pancro lenses." And I said, "I have to have you. You have to come do this film with me. I can't." Honestly, I really couldn't think of anybody who I had the confidence could paint on a big, rich palette and do it at the pace that we had to work on. And Dick's appreciated, obviously. I mean, Roger Deakins told me he thinks Dick's like the best, least appreciated DP around, which I agree with. But it's not that he's legendary in Britain, and I think
Sam's worked with him.
Yeah, and Dick is 73, 74. He works like a 30-year-old. He's so fierce and so vital, and I never ever could have gotten this done at this scale without him, and I just can't say enough about it. I mean, working with him was like one of the peak experiences of my career. He really, and he also great. Because he shot. I mean, this is really weird, but I watched when Born to Run, Springsteen's record had the 30th anniversary. They put out that remastered concert. They had a concert film of the 1975 Hammersmith Ballroom London concert. That it was the first performance of Born to Run, basically. And I realized it was shot by Dick Pope.
Oh wow!
And I said, that's not you. And he goes, oh yes, that was me. And I think that there's something that there's something about his he shot for the BBC and he shot music, and I really felt while we were making the film, in addition to my partner Bill, who produced the film and is a terrific actor, who I felt I could look over at and sort of check in on performance stuff. But Dick also, apart from being a great photographer, he's got a great, all those years with Mike and doing improvisational work, he's got a great, even if he doesn't know you're looking at him, I could look at him and kind of, you can tell when he was a great barometer for me, even as an actor.
No, listen, we just got a couple more minutes, so I just wanted to ask you because, I actually came to your house while you were filming. I was working in New York, and you had been up all night, and I think we woke you up, and you came up and you were just beat, and you were talking about him, and you just were beat, and I know that feeling, but I know what a run up the hill this movie was to you, and now to have it done, and I just think it's such an amazing feat because people don't get to make movies like this anymore, and as the world goes further and further along, they're going to get to make less and less of them, they're going to go, yeah, you can do that, but get rid of the car scene and just have them talk in the apartment and say, boy, we had a horrible car chase on the way over here, and I mean, what does it feel like right now? Do you feel like
good? Yeah,
it was worth the 20 years? I mean,
yeah, sure. I mean, it's a privilege. I wish all of us in this room. I wish the new standard was going to be that Netflix will give us all $200 million to age all our friends backwards. But I don't think that's actually coming for all of us. I think it's a one-off, and I think we got to get. I don't know if you have to get any. It's always been hard. Maybe it's harder now. But on the other hand, there's probably more ways to get things done than ever. I felt that this was worth pushing to still make it for a big, for a theatrical kind of a cinema experience, and I wanted to do a lot with the music to weave in. So it was, an enveloping experience, and I got amazing collaborators on that. But yeah, it was. Look, I think that I talked about Spike. I mean, I was very affected by Reds, you know, and I remember there was times with this I was feeling pretty, I want to say beat down because I was doing other fun things, but I was frustrated. I felt a little thwarted with it. And I talked to Warren Beatty one time, and I asked him about Reds, and he was like, "Oh man," he goes, I never had more chips on the table than when I did that." And he goes, "And he said that, people told me you're going to flush your entire career on this. Nobody wants to see a 3-hour movie about American socialists with documentary footage of the, and he was like, well, I want to see it, I want to do it. And I the point being that he said to me, we look at it now and we go, sure, obviously, but it felt very half-baked, at the time. I think even for him, even as big a star as he was, I think it was very half-baked. He felt very out on a limb. And you realize, like, we're not like white helmets in Syria saving people under fire. We're trying to make movies. And why you might as well take a swing at it. There's a certain point where you say, like, hey, if I can get this together and get all my friends from New York theater and get everybody together and do one, it's worth fighting for. And if you get to do it, it's hard, but it's a privilege. It's an amazing privilege.
Yeah. Well, this is going to sit on the shelf with a lot of the movies that you look up to. I really feel that. I really feel as time goes on, this is going to really sit on the shelf with all that, and you're going to get all you need from it, So it was worth the run and the work. So.
Thank you. It's fun to share it. I like having it out there, and it's hopefully people will, find it.
They'll find it. Congratulations.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. If you'd like to hear more, you can find past episodes of The Director's Cut wherever you listen to podcasts. Stay tuned in the coming weeks for more great Q&As with directors Noah Baumbach and Melina Matsoukas. And be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you can help fellow cinephiles find the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America. Music is by Dan Wally.